Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. Welcome to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show. I am your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. And tonight, guess what? I'm going to ask the question: is smart the new rich? Think about it. Tell a friend, like, subscribe. Come back in 3-4 minutes and nestle in and let's talk about it. Don't go anywhere.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Peace be unto you. Wishing each and every one of you love and peace. Thank you for tuning in. I know you have so many things to do, and I appreciate that you show love and support. I'm your host, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I'm an international business and real estate professional. I have developed millions of dollars of real estate and consulted on millions of dollars of businesses. I'm an artist, and business is my canvas. And if you know me, you know I hate the way we feel compelled to define ourselves by what we've accomplished. So I just like to talk about what I'm striving for, striving to become a powerful manifester, striving to grow into the bosom of God and to just have a level of influence and be able to contribute to my community and to my family. So I hope everybody is doing well. Happy Thursday. It's a beautiful summer. It's already getting ready to be August, which is interesting in and of itself, right? Time waits for no one. So tonight we are going over chapter 4 of my book, The Mind of an Entrepreneur, and I'm asking the question: Is smart the new rich? And I'm doing this series where we're going over the old book before we do this special launch of the new book. Okay. I got to ask you a question before we get started. Do you love yourself? Do you really love yourself? Do you really, really love yourself? Are you doing for self? Are you doing for yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Or are you waiting for somebody else to do for you what you can do for yourself? You waiting for somebody else to lose that weight for you? You waiting on somebody else to make that money for you? You waiting on somebody else to heal those traumas for you? Are you lying to yourself, waiting for somebody else to come and tell you what you already know? How much of your sovereignty over yourself have you given up? Just because you've given up the acquisition and the use of knowledge. Well, tonight we're going to review chapter 4 from my book entitled The Mind of an Entrepreneur. And that chapter is called Smart is the New Rich. And in that chapter, I said, your knowledge is your currency. Somebody put that in the chat for me. Your knowledge is your currency. What you have in your mind, no one should be able to take away from you, is what I should have said. But in the book, I said, no one can take away from you. But what I really said was no one should be able to take it away from you. But are you still smart? Many of us struggle to solve complex problems, and we don't understand why. If it's not on Google, we can't solve it. If you tell us something is wrong, and if we go to Google and there's no answer in Google, then we go, there's no answer to it. We can't discern truth from falsehood. We can't tell. We're followers. We like who the media tells us to like. We hate and cancel who they tell us to hate and cancel. If we see a post on social media that confuses us, we go straight to the comments, or we search for our favorite celebrity to see what they're saying about it. Don't act like y'all don't know what I'm talking about. Why do we do that? Do we still have knowledge in our brain? Has our currency been taken away from us? You know, it used to be back in the day that a child that knew a bunch of information was considered smart. For me, that was my mojo growing up. So I've had to do a lot of soul searching and learning, because my mojo growing up was that I was reading at 4 and I was smart. I knew a lot of stuff. I still remember my grandmother's phone number. I still remember my family members' phone numbers that I learned when I was 6, 7 years old. But today we don't even know nobody's phone number. You call me, you say, girl, what's so-and-so's phone number? Let me see. I got to look and go into the contacts and then forward you the contact entry. But off the top of my head, I can't tell you that phone number. We feel dumb without our devices. It's like our devices have become our brains. We can't even navigate the streets without our navigation system. At the next exit, make a left. If we don't hear that, it's like we can't even get back home. I saw a story years ago about a 12-year-old boy who was reported missing because he had accidentally gotten off the bus at the wrong stop and couldn't find his way back home. I mean, they had a whole APB out. Police was out there, was a missing child. The bus driver was about to get fired. And the other stop that he got off on was only 2 blocks away from his house. He was lost for hours. The mother came on the news and she said he didn't have his cell phone today, so he can't plug in his home address and the navigation and get home. And I remember looking at that and I was real judgmental. I was like, am I a dinosaur? When we were growing up, my brother and I could take you from one side of the city to another without a GPS. My brother is a human GPS system. When he was in the military and their platoon, when they would go out on missions, they'd be trying to find their way back to base. They'd wait for him because he could tune in and direct them in the right direction to go and get them back to base safely. He could recognize the differences in the landscape and the trees and the way the grass leaned, and he knew which way to go. He's a human GPS system. When he was 4 years old, my dad called my mom and told her to come and meet him at the farm where we kept our horses. She told my dad that she couldn't remember how to get there. He said, just bring my boy with you, meaning my brother. And at 4 years old, he led his mother to the new place where dad had been boarding the horses. Mom's driving and she always drove fast. So she's driving off fast. He's like, turn right here, turn right here. He'd only been there one time. That's a smart man. And a lot of us have this type of homing device and things like that in us just from riding in the car. That sweet baby couldn't even get his way back 2 blocks to his house without his cell phone. What's happening to us? Are we still smart? A smart person has a lot of knowledge and can explain it. So being smart doesn't just mean you got a lot of stuff in your brain. It means you got stuff in there and you can explain it. Okay? Or does your phone have all the knowledge and you're just an empty vessel? You ask a person today, what time is it? And they'll say, I don't know. And they grab their phone. What's so-and-so's number? And they say, I don't know. And they grab their phone. So smart is not necessarily knowledge anymore, right? Or is it? This is what I think. Smart is about how you think. Smart is about how you think. Let's put that in the chat. Smart is about how you think. Can you extract and recognize truth and combine it with truth from another source and create a personal platform? Or are you waiting for the news to tell you what to think? A smart person can think quickly and intelligently in different situations. A smart person might also be able to learn and use knowledge in different areas such as science, technology, and relationships and put it all together to solve a problem. But we don't use the mathematical thinking process of compare and contrast anymore. We get information from one source and we believe it. And if that one source that gives us information doesn't make sense, we're like, I don't understand. I don't know what's going on. We don't even think about, let me go over here and get another source. Let me go over here and see what this means in another industry or in another methodology. I know what this means to science, but what does it mean to religion? I know what this means to business, but what does it mean to economics? I know what this means to economics, but what does this mean to politics? And then we argue. We argue with anybody and cancel anybody who differs from the information from that one little funky source that we have come to idolize. That is the death of us. Now, since we don't mathematically think anymore, they, meaning the person who is trying to get our attention and take our sovereignty so they can control how much money we spend and all this other stuff, they know that all they have to do is find someone that we like, someone that we think is cute. And we are so crazy that we don't even know if we like them or if we think they're them cute. We waiting on somebody else to tell them. Is that person handsome? We don't know. Is that person cute? Somebody told us that we should like them or that they're attractive. So all they have to do is find someone that they told us is cute or that they told us is likable or that they told us is an influencer and put a message in them and have them to repeat it on air, and we believe it. See, mathematical thinking is key to whether or not we are smart today. See, they're tricking us into thinking that our children are still smart too by the time they graduate from high school. We think if they get all the grades, they check all the boxes, and somebody says, oh, they're making progress. Oh, they're doing better this year than they did last year, or they're doing something different this year from what they did last year. But that don't necessarily mean that they're smart. They were smart when we gave birth to them. They started talking, and you swore to everybody that was listening that they'd been here before. They was doing stuff, and it was just amazing to you. They came out the womb turning their heads. They were smart when you gave birth to them. From birth to age 5 or 6. When at 5 or 6 is that critical age where they should really at that age be like Master Farah Muhammad, where they knew what they showed up on the planet to do. But our children from birth to about 5 or 6 are brilliant, but then we stopped paying attention to them because we needed a babysitter. So we stuck a device in their hands and arrested their development, the development of their mental muscles that helped them to think mathematically and to solve problems. So instead of the device enhancing their mathematical thinking, it's creating a dependence. Let me see what y'all talking about over here in the chat. Let's see. All right. Happy Thursday, Mother. I see you. Sister Betty says she loved herself. I see Sister Sandra. Peace, love, and blessings, family. Happy, blessed Thursday and every day. Yes, ma'am. That's right, Sister Sandra. Okay. Yep. Smart is the way you think. All right. We're going to keep going here. Okay. I see y'all in the chat. Y'all not in the chat. Y'all up here watching today. All right. Okay. Mathematical thinking is a lot more than just being able to do arithmetic or solve algebra problems. It is a whole way of looking at things, stripping them down to their essentials, whether it's numerical, structural, or logical, and then analyzing the underlying patterns. Smart used to mean that you could think, but today smart is about whether or not you can think and transfer information. Many of us can't think, and we don't think. We wait to see what our favorite celebrity is going to say. We have no knowledge of our own, nor can we pull facts together to form an opinion on something. And here's what's worse. We don't even have an opinion a lot of times. And even more so, what's worse is we think we're smart, but we don't even know that we're being programmed because we don't even understand how our subconscious mind works. So we're watching certain programs and certain movies all the time, and we're wondering why we find ourselves talking about certain things all the time. I'm going to tell you something that I learned to do. When a person starts to have conversations and repeat things that I don't want impressed upon my subconscious mind, I just don't engage in the conversation. I'm not even going to go into the certain subjects, but there's certain subjects out here that are so permeable into the lexicon of our culture that they're in every show, it's all over everywhere, and then people are always talking about it. Well, I'm not going to keep repeating that pattern with you. It's bad enough that I got to click the channel past certain things. I'm not going to get on the phone and then go into an environment and keep having this conversation over and over with you. So I just ignore it. I had somebody ask me a question the other day. She said, "Girl, ain't you tired of thinking?" She said, "I'm tired of thinking." I was like, wow. I said, no, I value the ability to think, and I'm grateful for the ability to think well. Thinking is how I navigate the world and ensure that I am in alignment with my purpose. I think with my mind and my heart. And I started thinking. I had to look it up. What is thinking? It's the process of using one's mind to consider or reason about something. Y'all want to learn about some mathematical ways of thinking? Let me know in the chat. Y'all want to talk about some mathematical thinking processes, I should say? I didn't. That was bad grammar all day long. Would you like to learn more about mathematical thinking processes? You might want to talk about that. I think the last time I talked about this was when I was on radio in DC. And I think I did a series on mathematical thinking. And so I'm going to break down, we're just going to go through them real quick. This is just designed to raise your awareness. It's not like the other series that I did. I think that series is on my website. If it's not, I'll have to find it and post it for you guys. It's audio only because I wasn't doing video when I was on radio, but it was like a 7 or 8 part series, maybe even 9-part series on mathematical thinking processes. But let's just run through them, okay? Because as we're running around with our, board in our back and our head up high, thinking we're so smart and we're so gifted, but we can't think our way out of a paper bag, I want us to do something about that. I want us to be able to contribute to solving complex problems in our lives, in our families, in our communities. And the only way we're going to get there is if we learn how to think. You got to learn how to think. Number one, there's a thinking process called representation. Now, the process of representation includes using models to organize, record, and communicate mathematical ideas, as well as selecting, applying, and translating these models to solve problems and interpret mathematics. I think a real simple way of thinking of this is think about when you have certain math problems. I don't know if you guys have ever taken math tests where they ask you to recognize a pattern, or they'll tell you, well, this is the first way. You'll recognize a pattern, and then you have to pay attention to the next scenario and see if you can recognize that same pattern in that next scenario. And the recognition of that pattern is the solution to the math problem. Or here's another one. They may tell you that X equals 7. So everywhere you see the X, you know that the X represents the number 7. So as you see that X incorporated throughout the problem, you know that you can put the number 7 in there. Well, the same then can become true in our thinking processes. Okay, wherever we, once we understand what certain symbols and signs recognize, and we see it with language, if you start to see things on television and okay, every time I see that, this, it means this, then you'll be able to use what they call the representation method. I'm not going to go into it, but that's the brief overview of that. The second one is called reasoning and proof. Sister Sandra, what you say, girl? My friend's quote is, we need to stop feeling and start thinking. Yeah, that's so true. Okay, reasoning and proof. Reasoning and proof are ways of developing and expressing insights about a variety of phenomena. So reasoning is the process of using connections between knowledge and experiences to explain what you see, think, or conclude. Proof is the way of expressing reasoning and justification. All right. So reasoning, meaning how do you connect the knowledge that's in your brain, or what you've learned or read or studied or heard or seen, with a particular experience. And you use the marriage of those two to explain something or to draw a conclusion. And then the evidence of that conclusion, or whatever you conclude, becomes your evidence, which is then how you can justify an answer or your next step or your proof. So in other words, what happens to us in this simple-minded world that we live in, we may have knowledge. We may know that fat meat is greasy. And then we may have an experience. Let me give y'all a perfect example. When I was working in healthcare, 90% of our patients were either current smokers or ex-smokers. So in our case, 90% of the people with vascular disease were ex-smokers or current smokers. Okay. And when we would tell them, listen, you got to stop smoking because it's closing your arteries, it's raising your blood pressure, it's dumping these poisons into your system, it's polluting your body, you got all these toxins. And that person will know that they smoke, know that they need to stop smoking, and will tell you it's not good for me, but they will argue with you and say, but that ain't got nothing to do with why my legs are hurting. That ain't got nothing to do with why I'm coughing. That ain't got nothing to do with it. So they couldn't put the knowledge with the experience of being sick, the knowledge of smoking and the fact that they're smoking and it's bad for you, with the experience of being sick. It's like people, we would get it oftentimes with people who are diabetes. And a lot of this has to do with because they've tricked people into this pre-diabetic thing and then the real diabetes, and there's all these different levels, when as soon as somebody says you're quote unquote pre-diabetic, you should start treating yourself like you're diabetic. So we would have people that would say, well, my doctor said I was pre-diabetic. And you say, okay, well, do you know what to do to prevent yourself from going into what they are calling regular diabetes, full-blown diabetes? Say, yeah, I need to exercise. I need to stop eating cakes every night. I eat sweets 3-4 times a day. They'll say, I need to stop that. I'm under a lot of stress. And they'll be really good at going through and understanding exactly what behaviors that they're engaging in that has got them to this point. And then you say, okay, but because we're looking at your feet and we can tell by your symptoms that you're not pre-diabetic, you're diabetic. And even though they just listed all these behaviors, they won't draw the conclusion between the diet and the behaviors and the impact on their bodies, and would argue with us. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about. That's reasoning and proof. Y'all get that? Give me a thumbs up if you understand that. Here's the next one, problem solving. Problem solving is the act of defining a problem, determining the cause of the problem, identifying, prioritizing, and selecting alternatives for a solution, and then implementing a solution. Okay, so part of our problem is that we don't know how to recognize a problem because we can't reason. We don't always know how to recognize a problem unless somebody tells us it's a problem. So a lot of times we can't independently recognize a problem. We're waiting on the news or our favorite celebrity or somebody on social media or somebody that we love to tell us this is a problem. So we can't define the problem. And when we can't define the problem or isolate the problem, we can't determine the cause of the problem. And then if we can't identify the problem and we can't define the problem and we can't find the cause of the problem, then we can't identify a solution. We can't prioritize options and come up with a solution. And we definitely can't select one. And then we can't implement one. This is why we all over the place. What's wrong with us? What's the problem in the Black community? What's the problem in the relationship? What's the problem in our business? I talk to business owners all the time. I say, okay, what's going on? What's the problem? They don't know what the problem is. All they're telling me is the symptoms over and over and over again. They just keep telling me the symptoms. Well, my people not showing up for work, or the customer's not coming in. Everything is the symptoms, the symptoms, the symptoms. And then I have to help them reverse engineer it so that we get all the way down and figure out what is the root, what is the problem that we're trying to define. And then we can figure out why the customers aren't coming in the door. Then we can figure out how to get them to come in the door. And then we can create a solution and implement it. But until we can define what the problem is, we can't get there. Number 4 is connections. Connections is the ability to bring together concepts across disciplines, linking important ideas and systems and consequences. This is a tough one for a lot of us because we tend to watch the same news outlets. We pay attention to the same stuff. We don't really diversify our thinking. We can't draw connections between things. We're so afraid to build a platform with diverse information from different folks because somebody told us, don't listen to that person. You can't get any information from them. Oh, and only listen to this person about this or that. And we canceled that person. So everything that person says you can't listen to. So then you're left with this tiny little platform of information that doesn't give you enough concepts across enough disciplines so that you can begin to put together a systemic way of solving the problem or just understanding what's going on. And then ultimately it becomes difficult to figure out what the consequences are. So concepts, discipline, I always say, and I said this when I was doing this talk on this topic when I was on radio, is that each and every person today, because information is at our fingertips, each and every person today should have a way in which they can put their hands on various different forms of knowledge across concepts and disciplines and be able to extract the truth and create a knowledge platform that suits their goals and their needs. Nobody should tell you, well, you know, in our family, we're Republican. So anything a Democrat says, you don't listen to. You just cut yourself off from any truth that could be in a person's solution or in their mouth just because they're Democrat. And the vice versa may be true. You may say, well, in our family, we're Democrats, and you don't listen to nothing that no Republican has to say. Huh? Or you say, well, in our family, we're white, and we don't listen to anything but things that other white people say, whether you say it directly or it's implied. What about all the smart and knowledgeable things that you can learn from people who don't look like you? People who don't think like you? Why does this culture always make you choose? Is it Trump or Biden? Is it Malcolm or Martin? Tupac or Biggie? Whitney or Mariah Carey? We got verses. Is this or that? Why? Why can't you like both? Why can't you say, you know what, I like some things about this one and a couple things about that one? Why can't you say, you know what, I don't like neither one of them? Is it Booker T or W.E.B. Du Bois? It's really elementary thinking to keep you on a really elementary and low level. You should be able to listen to anybody speak and anybody present and extract what is of good that's in it for you. You should be able to snatch those truths out of there. You should see anybody. It shouldn't matter what they look like, who they are. You should hear them talk. If you hear them say something that means something to you, you should be able to snatch that truth and put that in your own platform and use that to move forward in your own life. That's called connections. The next one is called critical thinking. How y'all doing? Y'all getting this? Y'all liking it? You understand it? You got it? You feeling it? Thank you for the thumbs up, Sister Betty. Critical thinking. Critical thinking is the process of analyzing information to form a judgment using rational, skeptical, and unbiased methods. It involves questioning, analyzing, interpreting, and evaluating what you read, hear, say, or write. Critical thinking is a fundamental skill that's valued in many areas, including education, business, and everyday life. A lot of us have a hard time navigating life, but especially opening businesses because we can't critically think. We do not have critical thinking skills. And somewhere along the line in the educational system, they stopped teaching critical thinking. And these are classes. I'm going to do some workshops on each of these. And I'm encouraging you guys to sign up for them because there's more than one way to think. It's when we say Islam is mathematics and mathematics is Islam, not only does what we say have to make sense and we have to be able to prove it, but we also got to be able to think in more than one way. We can't be like little birds just chirping, waiting for somebody to dump something in our head, in our mouths. Here's another thing, another way of mathematically thinking. I remember this one from statistics class in high school. It's called comparative analysis. And comparative analysis is a systemic method of comparing two or more things to identify similarities and differences and to gain a better understanding of them. It can be used in many fields, including business, academia, politics, and science. Comparative analysis. That's when you compare two things. You compare what's similar about them, and you may compare what's different about them. You may say, let me compare, let me write down what's exactly alike about them, but you're comparing. It's like if I say, do you like hibiscus tea or do you like green tea? Or do you like black coffee or coffee with cream and sugar? That's a comparative and analysis thing that you would have to take yourself through in order to explain to me the differences between black coffee and black coffee with cream and sugar. I hope y'all getting this. I really hope I'm not over y'all head, but I got to break this down. I got to introduce this because when we open these businesses, we have to stop being so linear. We have to go beyond vending. Vending is just the start of business. Vending is a good place to start. When I think about going back to the days of the Black Expo and when Reverend Charles Williams was alive, may Allah be pleased with him, and he created this concept with these Black Expos all over the country, and people will go there and vend and have vending tables and exhibits and introduce their goods and services. Some of those grew into big businesses. Some people just hustled those markets and those vendors, and they just went and put their table up everywhere. They just hustled the expo. They didn't really have a business per se. They was just like, shoot, wherever the expo coming up, I'm paying my $400 and get my vending space, and I'm selling. Got my black soap, got my incense, got my t-shirts. And then even today, when I see people saying, okay, well, I'm going to have a business expo, a lot of times it's about vending. And so going deeper into these different ways of thinking, and when you hire me as a consultant, I'm going to help you analyze your industry. I'm going to help you find trade journals and know where to go so that you understand how to analyze what's happening in your industry. When you understand these ways of thinking, it's going to get you to what we're going to talk about next week, which is developing your professional intuition. This is why people who don't have any experience don't make good coaches and consultants. And I'm not trying to hate on anybody. They might be able to teach you the basics. But if you want to get to that next level, you got to find somebody that's going to teach you these different and deeper levels of analysis and thinking so that you can come up with a business and you can deal with all the complex problems within the business. Because you best believe your competitors, they got teams of people that are sitting around doing nothing but thinking like this. Here's the next one: deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning is a logical approach where you progress from general ideas to specific conclusions. Okay. Instead of going into the detail, let me give you an example. You take a big thought pattern and then you start reducing and throwing away the pieces that don't matter so you get to the conclusion. Okay, so you're going to take away from the larger problem until you get to the solution. So let's say you say, I'm trying to find my red blouse, and your red blouse is in the middle of a pile of clothes in the middle of your living room. And so you're going down there and you're just throwing away everything that's not a red blouse. That's deductive reasoning. Like, up, blue pants, nope. Up, green shirt, nope. Up, yellow dress, nope. So I'm deducting and I'm throwing away everything. And then I get down to, here's my red shirt. So I've deduced the data, the actual physical data, down to what I was actually looking for. Okay, there's other converses of that. There's inductive reasoning and all of that, but that's just deductive reasoning. Reason why is that, when does that come into play in business? Because a lot of times we get caught up in things that don't have anything to do with the problem at hand. So I may go in and we may be sitting down talking and we're trying to solve a problem, and you're talking to me. I ask you a question. You start talking to me about something that ain't got nothing to do with what it is that we trying to solve for. And I'm looking at you like we're trying to find the red blouse. Stay focused. Instead of being over here in this pile, we know the red blouse is right here in this pile. So get over here and help me look. Let's analyze this stuff, because maybe I don't know the color green, or maybe I don't know the color yellow, or maybe I don't know a dress from a pair of pants. So I need you to get over here and analyze this data so we can deduct and throw away what we don't need and get to the bottom of what it is that we want. But instead, every time we get some data, you say, oh, I remember this yellow dress. This is the dress I was wearing when I met my husband. Did I tell you how I met my husband? Now we all down a rabbit hole on that story, and we've got all about this red blouse that we need. Hope that makes sense to y'all. Here's the two more. The next one is cognitive thinking. Cognitive thinking is the mental process that humans use to think, read, learn, remember, reason, pay attention, and ultimately comprehend information and turn it into knowledge. Human beings can then turn their knowledge into decisions and actions. So cognitive thinking is the way in which you go from knowledge to decisions and actions. Or let me say it this way. Cognitive thinking is the way in which you can go from knowledge or information, if you will, to decisions and actions. The reason why I say it like that is because you may have information, but then somebody on television tells you something and influences you, and then you make a decision or an action that has nothing to do with the information that you have. That's when we realize, ooh, something's wrong with my cognitive thinking ability. Because I just substituted what they told me and threw out the information that I have that I probably got from my own experiences. And then I made a decision based on their information and not my information. That's why a lot of times when you make a mistake, you're like, I know it. I know it. I know better. But you didn't do better because you didn't use your own cognitive thinking process. Here's the last one. Cause and effect. This is like if-then thinking. When I first went to college, I majored in computer engineering, and one of the first programs you learn is if-then thinking, cause and effect, the direct relationship between an action or an event and its consequence or result. If-then thinking is a technique that involves creating a link between a situation or a cue, which is the if, and a desired behavior. Here's a real simple thing in programming. If I press this button that says enter, that means that's going to take me to the next field. So the if-then statement says, if Wendy presses this button, then she goes to the next field of information. Real simple. Same thing in life. If you smoke cigarettes every day, then there are certain risks, certain things that you might get. If you smoke cigarettes every day, you might end up as one of their patients. So if you do this, then this may happen. An if-then statement, cause and effect. Because you did this, this was the effect. If you do this, then. So it's written, in the program as an if-then statement. Okay. So I wanted to introduce us to these different ways of thinking so that when the workshop comes up, I don't want y'all silent like y'all being with the financial trauma workshop, like y'all don't need to heal from financial trauma. We need an if-then statement. If you click this QR code, right? Oh, it's over here. If you click the QR code, then it's going to take you to the Eventbrite so you can sign up with the discount for the financial trauma bootcamp. So I'm going to do the same thing with these mathematical thinking processes, and we'll do maybe like a 9-week course. And I really want you all to sign up because we got to create our own universities. We got to study and learn. And one of the things that I'm working on, maybe with the financial trauma, I don't know, but with some of the others, I want to make it sort of like a social event where in your cities, wherever you are, we're having watch parties and we're just talking about these concepts. So we just get smarter and we have more tools and more ways in which we can solve problems. We can't keep waiting for somebody else to come and help us and do something for us. We got to get in with these businesses and go, hey, how do we solve these problems? How do we build our businesses? How do we increase our revenue? How do we have conversations with each other that will move us to the next level? And I think we should do it as a community. Okay, some of y'all say I am in. All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it helped you. And I hope it helped us to understand, even just to raise our awareness just a little bit, so that when we are coming across information, usually it's on the phone, on social media, or on television, we understand how to analyze it. We understand how to think. We understand, if nothing else, if you can't remember all of these techniques, just remember that there's more than one way to look at it. And don't be so quick to believe whatever it is somebody tells you. Normally, when a person is lying and they're trying to convince you or something, they're getting you to look this way. Meanwhile, they going that way because they know the truth is this way, but they just sent you off that way. That went over y'all head. Y'all missed that. Sister Sandra said the date of the workshop isn't good for me, but it will be available for a later date to be accessed. You know what, sis? I'm going to see if I can do that. Right now, there's not a plan to show it later, but let's see if when we launch the other workshops, we can launch this one and maybe you can join in. But right now, no. And we got some special guests planned. I'm working on a trauma expert. I'm working on somebody to come in and talk about foreclosures and evictions and some other traumatic financial events that could be causing us stress, things that maybe happened in the past or that's happening now. So we're going to have some special guests that are going to come in. I think it's going to be worth our while to make sure we're there at the boot camp. But I hope to see you all there. So make sure you go out and register. Okay. The goal is we want to get 350 people to sign up. With those 350 people, you can bring as many students with you as possible. It's just going to be the honor system, because my goal is to get this information out here to our students and to our young people. Imagine how much further ahead we would be if at 10, 11, 12 years old, somebody taught us some of these concepts. Imagine how much financial trauma we would have avoided, or that we could have even avoided for our children. A lot of our children went to college and made mistakes and ended up coming back home or didn't make it. Not because you was there making the mistakes for them, but because they really weren't properly prepared. And when they got there, they couldn't deal with the impact of the negative activities or negative situations that they were in. And those situations became traumas and they had to come back home. Or they did good in school, made it through. Then they got home and realized, oh, I can't find a job. I majored in engineering, but I'm over here working as a secretary at a school. Or I forget the statistic, but there's a large number of our children who come home from school and they're not working in the chosen field that they went to school for. Well, guess what? That becomes traumatic for them, because in their mind, they're being judged by how well they're doing. And then that trauma can either cause them to pick a whole different outlook or just do some weird stuff behaviorally to justify and make themselves feel good. It's just a lot of trauma is a tricky thing. And this financial trauma is especially tricky because it prevents us from being successful chronically, like long term. And we don't even know why. So we got to uproot this financial trauma. So bring a student, sponsor a student, pay for yourself. Even if you don't know who the student is, go out there now, pay for yourself, and then find 2 students to bring and log on with you. If you got a house full of children, then get one for you, get one for your husband. I even let you get one for yourself, and then let the whole family view it. The goal is that we got to get this information out to our people. How do you deal with financial trauma? How do you heal from financial trauma? Let me say this one last thing. None of us have a lock on information. Okay. Somebody DM me and said, I know somebody else who's teaching on financial trauma. And I said, good. There need to be 100 of us with financial trauma boot camps out here, because there's a lot of us. So Sister Sajdah not going to be the only person teaching on financial trauma. You just may be able to relate to me. I got my way of teaching it. Somebody else got their way of teaching it. Yeah, brother said for a man, it can make him feel inadequate. For a woman, it can make you feel inadequate. It makes, it's, here's the thing. We see the world through the eyes, oftentimes, let me say it this way. As a child, we see the world through the way the world sees us. And here's what happens to our children. They tell us, because they may not know, I want to be a surgeon. I want to be a neuroscientist. I want to be a psychiatrist. I want to be a nuclear biophysical engineer. I don't bit more know what that is. They may have did a few workshops about it, maybe if they're lucky, but they've gone in and done any shadowing, no kind of internship or anything in that field. So they don't even know what it means. They don't even know if they like that field. I can't tell you how many young doctors that came and applied at our office who didn't even like medicine, who would tell us, I can't stand blood. And they're not good at practicing medicine, and they can't pass the bar, they can't pass the test, because the world rewarded them when they said, I'm going to be a doctor. But they didn't have the passion and the will to become a doctor. So when they got to school, they either just sat through the classes and then just didn't do anything with it afterwards, or they never made it. Or if they did make it and found a way to get through, then they would come to us and go, you know what, but I don't really like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. Wait a minute. How are you a doctor? This is why a lot of times in the hospitals, they're so overstaffed. They have all these protocols in place because you got so many people who just went through the classes because it sounded good, because it felt good when they told their parents, ooh, I want to be a labor and delivery doctor. I'm going to be an ER doctor. I'm going to be a neurosurgeon. It sounded good and it felt good. But these mathematical thinking skills are not there. So they're going through school and it's just trauma. It's trauma after trauma after trauma after trauma, because they didn't want to be in that field in the first place. And they couldn't tell you because they didn't have the tools to be able to communicate that to you. So they went through with it because it made you feel good, which in essence made them feel good. And you showered and made over them because they were doing something that seemed so great. Imagine if we can eliminate some of that. That leads to financial trauma. What if we can eliminate some of that at 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old, and they get to skip some of that? What if we eliminate some of the financial stigma to choosing a career and recognize the fact that some of our children don't even need to go to college? Some of them need to go right over here to IIT or some technical place and get a certificate in cybersecurity and go make $150,000 a year doing that, or some kind of programming certificate that they can take a 9-month class to go get. Maybe they really don't want to go to medical school. Maybe being an EMT is good. That's a very noble position. Maybe being a firefighter. So we got to equip our children with the skills so that these critical career choices don't become fallback options. You got students all day long go and from other cultures going, I'm not going to no 4-year college. I'm going over here to California Institute of Technology. I'm going over here to the Illinois Institute of Technology, and I'm gonna get me a programming certificate. I'm gonna learn AI. I'm gonna learn cybersecurity. And that's gonna be a 9-month, 12-month certificate. And I'm gonna do that. And then I'm gonna get out here in the world and start working and clocking dollars while everybody else in school racking up student debt. Because contrary to popular belief, everybody's student debt has not gotten relieved. Newsflash. Okay, family. With that, I will see you all tomorrow morning for Sajdah Morning Coffee Talk. That's at 6 a.m. right here on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel. Would you say, brother, we must come out of the thinking and programming of our enemy. Come out of her. Yeah. Here's the problem with that. Some of us are so emotionally dependent and tied to the system, to the enemy, to the matrix, to whatever we've made our God. You got Black people who say, I just wanted all my life to just be white. Just silly stuff like that. Whatever we've made our God, we can't think around that. We can't think past that. So when you say what you said, brother, that is 100% fact. We must come out of the thinking and programming of our enemy. They're like, who? Now you're radical. Now you're labeled, and nobody want to listen to you because they're like, we ain't got no enemies. What they talking about? What Robert 11X Minor talking about? What's Sister Sajdah talking about? Well, guess what? Let me just show you. Maybe that word enemy scares you. Maybe that word enemy bothers you. Maybe that word enemy makes you nervous because you feel like it's a catch-all and you don't want to put everybody in the same group. So I just want to show you how the brainwashed have now become the brainwashers. We have people spending millions of dollars trying to get our attention, get us to click on this, get us to click and buy, get us to click and watch, click and tap in. People spending millions of dollars to do that. Why? Because they want control of our mind and our dollars. And they want to control your children. That's the real big thing. They want them babies. They don't care at this point. They don't care if the babies are. See, when we were younger, it was all about color and all of that. But now they don't care what the babies look like. They don't know. They don't care nothing about them. They want that mind. And then as this global economy begins to level its way out, and the American dollar is not worth what it used to be, and the power doesn't exist as much anymore, it becomes more difficult for people to amass large amounts of money without doing something crazy to get it. And so it becomes all about the manipulation of data and the manipulation of minds. And whomever is doing that to you, whether it's the man that's sleeping in the bed with you, the woman that's cooking your food, the person on your job, whomever is doing that, no matter what they look like, they're your enemy. Doesn't take away from what we're talking about and the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but I think we forget that nowadays in the warfare game that's being played on us, they use mercenaries. And if you can't recognize the mercenaries, you're going to be in trouble. That's a whole nother subject. All right. The brainwashers, now the brainwashers. That's what I just said. That's from the great Tom Burrell. The brainwashed are now the brainwashers. That's from his book called Brainwashed. The brainwashed are now the brainwashers. The brainwashers are like the mercenaries. So that's why you got to be careful putting a description and a label on somebody, because you don't know what that mercenary going to look like. Okay, family. See you all tomorrow morning on the Sajdah Wendy Muhammad YouTube channel right here, 6 a.m. for Sajdah Morning Coffee Talks. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll figure out something. God will give us a good download and we'll get it together. I'm going to get some rest. I've been grinding since early, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Please sign up. Financial Trauma Boot Camp. We need it. Let's heal together. Let's heal together. Let's start doing it. Let's just start having fun. Let's start having dinners where we have themes and we go, you know what? Let's have a cognitive thinking dinner. And we say, you know what? Let's have a mastermind dinner where we're talking about digital marketing. Let's just start doing that kind of thing. I've been reading a lot of history, and I was learning about the social lives of the great people who built the financial systems and the businesses of America. And it's good because learning, what you should do and what you shouldn't be doing. And now hindsight is 2020, right? So now we can see some of the ways in which they conducted themselves that maybe we don't want to repeat. So when I studied that, one of the things that I noticed that they did a lot was they had a lot of themed dinners and get-togethers, right? So, hair industry parties. So I'm like, let's do it around themes. Let's go professional intuition get together. Or like I said, cognitive thinking, a brainwashers chat. Let's just have themes and let's get together like that. This should be how we begin to socialize. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Please share. But I just think this is a cool way for us to begin to socialize like this, so that instead of going, okay, let me go out and go to the ratchet party. Like, I'm going to skip the ratchet party. I'm going to go to the cognitive thinking dinner with Sister Sajdah. I'm going to skip the stripper party and I'm going to go to the Supreme Wisdom and Business dinner with Sister Sajdah. And just a thought. And then pretty soon we start having these things all around the country, and different people who are thought leaders in our community are having these themed dinners and themed events. And this is just what we do. We just moving around and rotating, having a good time, but learning these concepts and supporting and loving one another. So, all right, family, love you all. Don't go anywhere. I got the commercial on the financial trauma workshop coming right up. Okay. And don't forget to continue to support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House Museum. I hope to be able to come to you guys soon with some really good news. I'm working in a little bit more silence because the enemy was coming at y'all, sister, because I was being a little bit too transparent. So haven't forgotten about it. Know that this is my life. I'm working each and every day. There's not a moment that goes by that project is not on my mind. It is, in fact, who I am at this point. All right, I'm out of here for real now, y'all. Peace.